Well, it looks like Mr. Watts is first up on the agenda. Mr. Watts, give us an update on
On the IT federal project, one of the hiccups that we had early on over the past couple months is the ownership of the pumping station down there. So that delayed somewhat of the process of getting the site plan approved, and basically that focused on council hadn't approved the ownership of that lift station down on IT federal site. And so we had to make a change last week just to get the site plan approved. And we briefed council on this last week, and we're going back this coming up Monday to talk about the overall cost of the IT pump station, and therefore if we can keep moving on further with that project.
So they have an approved site plan now?
Yeah, they got an approved site plan with that little caveat that right now on the site plan approval it says EDA is going to be responsible for that pump station until we get it all worked out. Like I said, we'll be going in front of council next week to discuss the overall cost of that and how they would like to proceed. On the Rural Phoenix master plan, Benoni has prepared a master plan and traffic study. We actually just got this in earlier this week. This Benoni had significant off-site improvements that were recommended from the study when IT Federal, or not mainly IT Federal, but when Rural Phoenix develops. They listed numerous significant off-site improvements recommended from that study, but the only thing we didn't have was a phasing plan. And so that's what they've come up with, a phasing plan and cost estimates so that we can develop the full impact of that IT or the Rural Phoenix site. So right now we're basically still reviewing the traffic analysis and then hopefully bring to approve the Main Street design, which council hasn't yet approved. So we're hopefully to make some good progress this coming up Monday for this whole project.
How do y'all plan to handle this Kerfoot, West Main, that whole intersection there at the entrance to the soccerplex? Have you thought about maybe a little small roundabout or something, where it's going to be a T intersection?
I will have to go back. I haven't looked at the full traffic study to see what that, I know there is work, like there's work up at the Kendrick in North Shenandoah. They want to put a roundabout there.
Yeah.
And obviously there's some improvements that we'll have to make on Shenandoah and 14th Street. And I think there is some improvements on the other side of West Main where it'll connect.
It doesn't take a little more right away, and we got some to spare there, but it would certainly, flow-wise, it would work better. I'm thinking long-term,
Right.
if you had 1,000 people out there working in the traffic, because you do get a lot of, there will be a lot of cross-town traffic going that way that wants to avoid Royal Avenue, particularly during leaf season, heading that way. That was Clay's bypass of Front Royal, I guess, back in the day, but it'll be the unofficial other alternative to Royal Avenue and Commerce Avenue to get north-south through the town, so.
Another bypass.
Another.
Yeah.
It's connected up.
Bypass Junior?
Connected up so that people can
Yeah.
get from one area to the other if you do have a bottleneck somewhere.
If I remember correctly, I think there was a traffic light there. I think, yeah, I think there was.
I just say look at that as.
Yeah,
a
oh yeah, I
circle.
definitely
That
will
would
look
be-
at it. I apologize, I don't have the answer right now on top of my
The
head.
cost of a signal at $350,000, a little more right away and asphalt.
Right.
It'll work, it'll work.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to quarter water upgrade project.
We're currently still doing a waterline modeling. Right now, we're tasked with trying to determine the precise status of our existing water lines, where we do the redundant water supply from town down to the corridor. And so we're in that modeling study right now. It's a hydraulic study model to determine how feasible it is to connect that and have that current flow and have redundancy out in the corridor. We're hoping to have this answer 1st of January to brief council on where they want to move from there. Obviously, we looked at 4 different options out there. Dominion Resources obviously would only recommend one option, which is the redundant lines out in through the corridor, which is about $5.5 million. So the only thing we're doing right now is the missing piece is this hydraulic study to determine that this is all going to work. Because right now, we just have a PER, which is just a preliminary engineering review. And so this right here, this hydraulic study will determine if this truly will work.
And Happy Creek Road project.
It was funny was we were trying to search for so people were telling us that we already had to have a Creek Road design.
You probably did. How many years ago, Tom?
Pardon me?
How many years ago did they have the Happy Creek Road design?
When I was on council, in 1996,
Yeah.
it was a 6-year plan for 20 years. And then one of the last meetings that I had as a work session, where I do the whole thing from, I think, Happy Creek Road all the way to town limits,
Right.
and they underestimated it.
Right, and so they
Of course,
broke.
we had the thing with the bridge that failed, and so I think they figured the whole thing would be 5 million. And then what happened was, just to go where you already went, that was 5 million, so they cut it down to like 3 phases.
Right.
So they completely underestimated everything.
Yeah, it took me a while to find out that Happy Creek was designed phase 1 and phase 2 without my previous knowledge. I didn't realize that they broke that project up and that we already had the design for phase
Yep.
2. So my wheels spin a little bit trying to find that design for phase 2. So now we're just basically taking another look at the design and starting to see if there was any previous right-of-way acquisitions for that property. You know, we're not finding any luck. Doesn't seem like there was anything pursued beyond phase 1 project. So that's where we are. And staff has already submitted for revenue sharing for that project as well. So
Did you all submit this cycle?
yeah,
Good. Yeah, they've gone in now 2-year cycles, so
yeah.
the next opportunity will be 2019.
Yeah. So yeah, we did get that under the deadline, so we'll just be waiting to see. So council's told me this is a priority 1 project, so we're going to try to get this moving along as fast as we can.
Our priority ones come in multiples. But I think we'll get her done.
Yeah.
Next, the maintenance code enforcement update.
Property maintenance code, if we go back just a little bit of the history, on July 20th, the Planning Commission was dealing with it. And also in November, the Planning Commission held a second public hearing with the draft ordinance. On September 28th, council did hold a public hearing on the adoption of the property maintenance code. We did have a few citizens come out and talk, actually probably maybe eight or so. Council took it back to a work session, and then they decided after the November 6th work session to be placed back on the agenda this Monday. But they pulled it off the agenda Monday, and it's going to be talked about at the work session next week on the property maintenance code. So we're just waiting for council action.
Is there something too that the town's looking to institute this on their own? Or there was talk before as far as maybe to get the building department to piggyback on what we do?
There was hopes that we could piggyback with the county and their building inspections, but I don't know if there's been any really formal talks between the town and the county. And at this point, until we can get it the next step, it's kind of mute. We've got some earmarked money in this year's budget for it, kind of like seed money. And so we'll have to wait and see where council goes with this, if we need to start establishing some more seed money for the following year.
Moving on to the wastewater.
All right. Adams and Robinson continues with the upgrade of the wastewater treatment plant. The project's approximately 93.1% complete. The completion date has been pushed out with substantial completion on February 14th due to a lot of weather days and a few contractor issues. But as far as wise as the septic receiving station, the structure itself is 100% complete. We're still working on an HVAC issue down there. But beyond that, once they can get this running, basically waiting for pavement, fence, gates, you know.
Are they going to try to get that up and running before winter kicks in, or that can wait till spring as well?
Talking with Timmy, once it's all tested and once people can flow freely in and out, but I can get a better answer for you.
I think the only issue we run into is you get into freezing weather, you have a septic haul that goes out and picks up a load, and they get there, and the tank, for some reason, yard backlog is full, they can't offload, and there's danger of that freezing on the truck and damaging the tank or equipment. So, if we didn't have any, if your flow was increased down, that you could handle it, and the tank, the old tank was working, then it wouldn't be much of an issue. It only really becomes an issue when you get into the overflow situation where you can't process any more septage, and you have to shut down for a couple of days. That's when it becomes an issue. Then you couple that with the fact that it's 20-degree temps and stuff's freezing on the truck. So that's the only issue for us.
So where exactly is it located, the traffic?
So it's in front of, in front of the expanded sewer plant. So it's I guess kind of on the right down.
Yeah, you just go down, once you cross the railroad tracks where the farm is, wastewater treatment's on your left, and you just go down to the second entrance. This area is supposed to be self-contained where the septic haulers can come and go without a lot of assistance
They can use
before.
a key card and go in
Right.
and access it 24/7.
So yeah, it's going to be a really nice setup compared to where we were before. So, but I'll get back with you, Doug, on the
Yeah,
start
that's
sequence.
like I said, I may, and you know how it is. It's gonna be that call at 4:55 on a Friday afternoon in January, and it's 2 foot of snow on the ground now, so they're worried about it.
That's okay, you got Alice's numbers, 5-4.
The same issue. Okay. Moving on, it's Rich on that.
Development review, and I apologize, they actually met yesterday. I don't have an update yet from Karen, but this was last month's stuff. So, committee discussed projects in the county. There's a CUP modification will be on the board's agenda next week. Christian College is building a new chapel, and it's a pretty substantial building, and it exceeds our height limitation, and you have to get a conditional use permit basically to exceed the height limit. I know there's some concern about staff about firefighting equipment. We don't have the equipment, even with our existing ladders, because of the width of the building. It's not just about being high, it's about the width of the building and being able to get to it. But that'll be on the board's agenda next week for consideration. Proposed Ag Event Center, it's a property owner in Browntown would like to hold events on their property. That'll be forthcoming in November. Proposed boarding school, location is still undecided at this time. Victoria expansion, they will bring in more jobs than anticipated. They brought in, I think, 42 employees. We should have another 15 or so within the next few months, around the first of the year. Projects in town, of course, the use of the former police building. Mr. Beam has met with the owner. They're considering an on-site, off-site catering business. The various East Main Street properties, discuss proposed uses for structures in East Main and requirements of the floodplain ordinance. The mountain trails opened last month, I guess, on Main Street, and Brooklyn's Marketplace has moved to the Kibler building, and talked about West Main Street waiting on town for more traffic, so we already mentioned it. So the committee seems to be working well, and I think it's at least one opportunity every month for everybody to kind of come together and sit down at the table and talk through stuff.
Moving on to the building inspection.
All right, so building inspection software, the pilot project configuration is ahead of schedule with the building department. Permit type currently under review. Paul Fristo works here as our permit center supervisors, is being kind of taking the lead on part of that. Time and resource constraints are a challenge. However, the target date for the pilot project is January of this year, 18, still remains attainable. Upon reaching that milestone, configurations and testing the pilot should reveal the timeline for the go live plans and permits. We hope to have everything up and completely running by June of next year. And that's our target. I'm going to be done by the end of the fiscal year, so we can finally be done with the project. But the software itself on the other side seems to be working well. Joe, have you heard anything? So the in-house stuff is working fine. This is the public portal piece, so that citizens and contractors can go in and say, oh, where are my plans in the review process?
But the town's already able to.
Yeah, they can see what's on our side, and we can see what's on their side. That's already a big help.
Is this equipped for electronic plan review?
Yes. Yeah, the blue beam, I think, is what they use. So it's just, you know, it's, when you add technology piece, it just takes a while for staff and everybody to get up to speed, but,
Are we talking user friendly?
yeah, yeah, I think, you know, let's say you go down and you apply for a permit to put a deck on your house, and it's in town, and you want, oh, I want to go next week and see where it is in the process. You can go in and see if town zoning has approved it. You'll be able to see, is it in plan review for the county, if it's been approved. And then when you can have it set so that it'll send you, when your plan's approved, it'll send you a text or an email notification that, hey, your plan's been approved by the county. Come down and pick up your permit. So it really improves the ability for the public to kind of be engaged in the process a little bit. Before it was kind of, you know, Wizard of Oz, somebody behind the curtain working on it, and you really didn't know where it was unless you called or personally stopped by to see the person. You'll be able to go in the system and check on your status. So that's the advantage of the system.
Is this something that's going to be used by enforcement, zoning enforcement?
Yeah.
Or they ride by and they see a half-built building and...
They could pull it up and say, do they have a permit? Oh, yeah, they have a permit. Even if they didn't see it posted maybe on the site, but they could certainly make it a lot easier. And also you can go in and check on records from previous stuff. Let's say there was it looks like a porch is half put on, you can go, oh, they had a permit 3 years ago. I need to call them or contact them and say, hey, you need to renew your permit, you need to get work finished, something like that as well.
As far as rejections and approvals, will the citizens be able to go online and see just what the inspector had cited them for? Or
Yes, I believe so.
approved?
Yeah, and I think some of that's obviously making sure you have the information in hand, but if it's turned down, I think that they'll be able to notify them and what the issues were, make notes and stuff like that to be passed along.
You get 100 calls, you'll leave a sticker, and then, somebody will call and say, I was turned down, instead of reading a sticker, and then a lot of times it's weeks or two later, and you're trying to remember.
Well, the contractor, if you got multiple sites, you may leave this job site and there's an inspector coming later, maybe another day before you find out, hey, I got turned down, you were expecting the inspection to be approved, so at least you know ahead of time.
But would only the permit holder be able to access that, or will it be open to?
That's a good question.
That should be public record.
It's public record, yeah, I'd have to check and see if there's any, but it is public record. So if you want to find what your neighbor's doing.
Well, I was thinking about asking that question.
But it's a good question. I don't know if you can turn that off, that feature off until such time as the permit's approved and reviewed. I can certainly answer that question. I imagine there's
Typically,
lots
you
of.
ride around in a window displayed, is your permit publicly displayed, so. Okay, thank you.
In-town project stuff?
So we just recently completed both the replacement of roofs at the youth center here on Commerce Avenue and the community center, which is the library. We also replaced the ceiling grid in the youth center, so all those projects are completed, and knock on wood, hopefully for another 25 years we won't have to deal with roofs, and maybe we'll all be retired by then. I will say that this is the second time the roof has been replaced at the old. I was here for a year or two, and that was replaced when it was the library for the first time. Rusty Jeffries, we're just about done with most of what we're doing on our part of the project. We're waiting on the canopies on the parent pickup and the back bus pickup. Right when you don't really do the design of the canopies till you have your basically your pier hole, your footers are in place, and they come out into the final measurements, and the canopy maker orders the specs. Specs are approved by the architect, and then they complete the order and manufacture the canopy. Well, right about when that was happening, we had hurricane in Houston and hurricane in Florida. And what's the first thing a hurricane takes out? Every metal canopy gets blown off of every building. So there's a quick backlog of orders. So we've been, I think, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, 6 weeks plus in the hopper. It's just we're waiting to hear on the delivery date for those pieces to come in, but it's obviously out there. School board's still working on their part of it. They finally got all the old air conditioners out because they put all new windows in, and then they would leave a piece of plywood with the old air conditioner until the HVAC system was up and running. Well, in September, October, they got the new HVAC and heat system up and running, central air system. Now they're going back, they've removed all the old units. They're starting to put on the new exterior doors. All that stuff is coming along. But, you know, I still imagine they'll be in there another month finishing up details. If you haven't been by the school, it looks radically different, much improved. I know they're looking forward to having an open house at some point once everything's done. We're working, one of our Park and Rec crews is up there working. We appreciate the town support with the right-of-way vacation there along the back edge. We're up there renovating the upper playground to become the new playground, remember, because part of the old playground was taken up by the new parking lot. We've got everything pretty much torn up there. We've got most of the main line of the new, we're actually putting in stormwater pipe up there. Before, everything was drained towards the building and flooded the building. Now everything will be piped away and handled from a stormwater standpoint. That work should be completed probably by the 1st of December, thereabouts. And we've been ordering, the board just approved ordering some playground equipment. So they've got enough to do the first 2 of 4 phases of playground equipment. And they're probably, Rotary Club had committed $5,000 a year for 5 years. They have to match, but once they match that, they'll have enough to put all 4 phases in. So it's moving along very well. I know they've been having a couple of fundraisers, but we'll make sure the town's invited when we do our playground dedication. But it's now with that additional right away in the back, we've got a little bit more room to work with back there and we can address the drainage issues. So.
Now, is the town doing sidewalk on the opposite side of the street there? What is that?
That's your
Yeah, that's our Chrysler Road Trail project that's going across. Yeah, and then it'll come down to the school and then cross over. We're going to be installing a bus shelter over there as well by the apartment complex.
That'd be nice when that's finished.
Yeah, well, we should be done by January if the weather stays good.
So get everything prepped, start pouring.
What about, since you go off the rest of Jeopardy, say, the Chrysler Road Bridge? I know there's been some issues there as far as going out for bid, and
Yeah.
a little bit more than anticipated. And obviously, you all are aware that, you know, the impact it may have on
On the schools?
Yes.
Yeah, we sent out the bid twice. We didn't, they came in about double cost of construction estimate. We're currently working with our Matterson and Craig to dissect these RFPs, look at our specs and see what went wrong. Right now, we're basically on a holding pattern, and we're going to try to do it next year, getting it out in the spring and be ready to do during the school break, like we originally wanted to do
Right.
this year. But we just unfortunately missed the window, and now with the prices coming in, we're basically, right now, it's our challenge now to figure out why the price was why it was, because we went back and Matterson and Craig went back and looked at the numbers again, and they said, well, maybe 750, but not 1.3 million. So we're trying to get down into the contract language to see what scared these contractors off.
Well, I think we had the same problem in Loveland's district too, with Queen the whole thing years back. We put it out for bid, it came in, one, we said it's too high. We put it out for bid again, it came in 1.7. And there again, I think that goes related to the economy, because there was so much work out there. We caught breaks in the past as far as there wasn't a whole lot of work, so we got some good prices. So it's all a matter of timing and everything, but again, I mean, you're aware of it, but we just want to try to lessen the impact.
Right, and that's our
Traffic.
goal too. That is our goal as well.
Okay.
Oh, teamwork, though.
So there's 2 cover sheets, and one for Joe, I've got one for me. I know the town, you always had a public hearing the other night, and you got a second reading coming up. I actually talked to a tower this week who's out of Warren County, so they have a lot currently in the town. They said they had some concerns with some of the language. I said, put them in writing and give them to us, and we'll talk to the town. I said, 2, starting off the gate, we know it's not going to be perfect. It's a big document. We've modeled it after a couple of the jurisdictions, but what's your comments? And either the tow board or necessarily the board and the town council can amend the ordinance later if we work through this thing. I think the idea is to get everybody on the same page. There were, one of the questions, I'll give you a good example.
Please.
The ordinance requires a tower to have their own tow yard. So if I have a tow company, let's say it's a tow company, then we can't share the same yard. It had to be segregated or separated with a fence or something. In this case, this individual and another individual share the same yard. And there are probably reasons for requiring that. I said, just put everything in writing and we'll talk through those things. But it's getting into down the weeds and nuts and bolts of the ordinance, and there's a lot of detail in it, 20 pages long. So, there's going to be questions and comments. The other thing, and I think it's something that, the tow board will have 7 members, 3 law enforcement, 3 representatives of tow and recovery businesses, and 1 citizen. And I think Dan Whitten had worked on trying to come up with some bylaws for the organization so they can get up and running. Probably the easiest thing is whether it's the chair and I come down and sit down with you guys, let's look through the list of people, get the board and council to jointly adopt the list of names of who we're going to recommend. Otherwise, if we send it over, you guys may pick these 3, and come over here, we pick a different 3, then to make it simpler, I think maybe just having a quick meeting and sitting down and then taking back to both respective bodies. It doesn't have to be that complicated. I think we're just set up the first time.
Meeting staff would be adequate. Council is sold on the idea that the county's going to take care of this. We're not going to be involved. There's not going to be an appeal process where somebody come back to us. It'll be taken care of by the board, not your board, but the tow board. Okay. I don't know when you plan on putting that board together.
If you guys get it set up here in the next month, then hopefully by around the first of the year. And I'm really hoping that between Kayla and Danny, law enforcement, state police, they handle the majority of it. I believe I can only another board or committee to have to worry about. And I think it will once it gets.
Well, they have the
running.
problems that they know about. They already know what the problems are. And I think they're very astute to get people that we need, that's been around for a long time.
And I would think we would both want local folks on the board. You want somebody from
I think that's probably been 50 years plus in business, and then you got Spanky, he's up there in the 40s probably. So yeah, these guys have been around and they know what the customers are looking for and demanding. They're not looking to have their car picked up, taken to Edinburgh somewhere and recover their...
The other reality is the bigger questions come in where you have the larger tow companies that have to bring some things. So remember we had that Sheetz gasoline tanker that crashed on the interstate, and they were having to move that. But that's where you really run into issues because...
Those are above and beyond the norm. Those are 1-2 times a year maybe.
But that's what like VDOT and the state police want the tow board to address those issues.
So they need to keep the traffic flowing. And I understand VDOT has gotten into some of the
Traffic management.
Yeah,
Accident response. Well, partly because you could have a contract that says I'll be there. You wait a half an hour and they beg off and they don't show up, and you get to go down the list to the next one. Well, that half an hour backup, you're 3 miles now past Linden in the backup. So it's important to have the mechanisms in place to make sure people show up.
Because I think that law enforcement is interested in, along with VDOT, is keeping the traffic moving. Council and boards, our concern is the citizens. When they have an accident, which is beyond their control, they seem to be taken advantage of. And that is our concern because they're our constituents and we need to speak for them and to take action for them. So.
The other kind of caveat is a lot of the most dangerous crashes are secondary crashes where you get backed up traffic and the tractor trailer comes up and it's happened on 81 a couple times here recently. So that's part of VDOT and the state police is get it out of the way before somebody else gets seriously injured from a secondary accident. But hopefully it sounds like in the next month we'll have that kind of wrapped up.
That seems like council's moving forward. There wasn't any discussion on it that the council voted, so.
Joe, do you have anything on the tow board?
No, we had the public hearing and we look to move it forward on the 27th, so hopefully we'll get it approved.
No one spoke. public hearing.
Yeah, no one spoke, and it was a 6-0 vote, so.
Ray Groves, Spanky, but don't forget Alpha and Buckwheat too, so.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about those two guys. They got that 54 Chevrolet sitting back there with the little crowbar hanger on it.
Okay, my dog catering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry you got put in the spot, but
Yeah, you
yeah.
know, that wasn't a problem at all, and I understand the other 3 council members that voted for, and I understand the 3 voted against. They all had reasons, and we moved on. And
Well, and once it's in place, animal control will do it. And if we need to come back and tweak the ordinance, if there are issues, we certainly can come back and do that.
there was only one issue that one council member had, was that we would have to enforce the ordinance. And why have an ordinance that we don't enforce? But then when we were talking and having our conversations, I think that member got a clear view that this is for the county. The county is in dogs and cats enforcement. You don't do pets and you don't do bats and all this, you just do dogs and cats. So.
And I'll assure you, I don't think we'd have been there with the ordinance. There are laws on the state books, but some of those are subjective.
More
I
vague
think this is
for
much
localities.
more clear cut, you know, and it gives them a little bit, makes it a little bit easier for the person that's in the field to do the enforcement. And again, if we need to come back and tweak something down the road, then we do.
Well, you got the word right on the head. I think it tweaks and enforces for the enforcement, because there are dogs that are being chained to a tree. And that used to be the mentality 50 years ago. You owned a dog, and whether it was a collie or a German Shepherd, whatever, you had him tied out back at the tree. Even though in those days you had more involvement with children and the dogs, they would play with them outside because kids played outside, but now the dogs are left outside and kids are inside playing their little electronic games. So.
And I think, you know, just like the term adequate shelter, that may mean something different to everybody at this table, and now it's a little bit clearer about it.
Yeah, my dog wants something comfortable.
Make yourself,
Yeah,
hurt
that's
yourself
right.
feeling.
Yeah.
And you did say tweak and not tweet.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? That we talked about?
Can I-
Yeah, sure.
One suggestion, maybe, and they're going to take back to their respective bodies. Back in the day, we used to meet Liaison every month, way back in the day. And they're going to always been an informational sharing body. There's no decisions made here. Most of the stuff we came across tonight, of course, I've always been a big proponent of having as many meetings as we can. I just wonder if maybe we reevaluate this, since most of the stuff was information. We can send it over to the council, they can comment back, we can comment back, the whole thing. I mean, it's nice to sit down face to face, but then maybe what we could do is cut it back to every quarter, or cut it back to every 6 months, and maybe have the full council and board kind of sit down. And the only caveat would be that the town would provide dinner. I know Roger would like that.
For the first half year.
But no, even you know, we're unique that we only have really one town in this county. I know some counties have 6, 7, 8, and they do have a meeting maybe on a more annual basis to have everybody sit down and talk. But I think this has worked out well. But again,
I think we had talked about this 6 months ago.
possibly.
You came
It's
to
whenever
council.
Tony shows up at the meeting.
It's when-
Sure.
Whenever I show up at the meeting, yeah, so, but that's fine. But that's just a
Well,
thought.
that's good.
Because it's good to know what everybody else is doing, and that's the main thing. But we may be able to take care of some of this just between staff and staff.
Well, 4 times a year, I think, would probably adequately.
That's a
take care of it.
possibility. And then again, I mean, you know.
You start stretching out 6 months, a lot of things get kind of like,
Well, it depends on, you know, like I said,
depends on what it is.
Joe gives Doug his report, Doug will share it with us, he responds back, and in that way, everybody, all the elected officials see exactly what happens.
Didn't we do it quarterly?
We used
Or
to.
somewhere way back?
That's what I was
It seemed
asking
like we
Joe,
did.
why are we having a liaison meeting? We just had one.
Well, and that's the thing too, I mean, if there is some
I mean, in my.
major issue, we'd always call maybe a special issue to talk about things, but I think, you know, I feel confident in both our staffs that they can, you know, work things out and then keep us apprised of the progress and they get our input in the whole thing.
So also, I like the idea because council has already
thrown it out there, that meeting with the board and the EDA or whatever joint meetings, just at least once a year,
Yeah.
just to say hello, how's everybody been? Talk about different things that,
I only remember once or twice of that. I
Yeah.
once-
A couple times, and we do have one coming up December, she's got a joint meeting, we'll all be getting together
yes,
here
that's
next
the
month.
8th. But
Because we've had those. in
it's
the
hard to
past
get
as
council
far as
during the
what we
day
know.
because 4 of our members work out of town. Gary works out of town, he just happens to be here tonight because he was able to get here a little bit early, so. And,
Thank you for getting here.
but as far as council, and we would have to format it somewhere to where if council members had some concerns or questions, to get it all on paper, so when we meet, we can go over all these things like we used to. But we haven't met with council and county for a long time.
Well, you don't have a formal agenda, obviously. And I think,
No.
I know there's some years back where it was prohibited to bring up anything that wasn't on the agenda. And that's not, I mean, if I had,
For the last
if I had
past
something
10
that,
months,
you know,
whatever we want to
it
talk
was
about.
always to the point where if I saw an issue with the stoplight at Main and World Avenue, I was prevented by letting you know about it.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. So, I mean, it's not one of those gotcha moments or anything. It's just a matter of sharing information. But, I mean, it's been probably 4 or 5 years since we had a joint meeting with the EDA in the town and the county. Since, especially the town, there's been more turnover. We just keep getting elected and elected, so we retired.
Once y'all grow old here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something good to refresh everybody. And there again, I always talk about that too. It's not a bad idea to have like some meeting, again, since I happen to be on both sides, I have a fairly good feel what goes on in the town, but it's been
Used
20
to
years.
have.
It's been 16 years.
Yes.
But there again, Gary and some of the council may not know what the county does. And some of us may not understand exactly what the town does, but, explain, your.
Because our budgets
water,
are
sewer,
entirely different.
Yeah.
Our outlook is different, we're in the business of sewer, water, curb, gutter, police
Electric.
department, that kind of electric
Yeah.
provider. You guys take care of the big bundle.
We take care of the schools, the
Yeah.
constitutional
Yeah.
offices, all
Fire,
that stuff. So
rescue.
That just seems to be something, and there again, I could all.
You have a lot of roofs to fix over a 20-year period.
And that could all also be done as far as a 2 or 3 page synopsis that we put to the administrators, say,
Yeah.
here, share this, here's what we do, here's what you do. And that
Don't
kind of-
forget too that, Joe and I go to respective fathers and go out too. so
Well, I was gonna say that, you all make the what, every 2, 3 months and make the reports there too, but it's basically details on existing upcoming projects and all, but I'm just saying the overall picture from the standpoint of what everybody does. 'Cause-
I mean, if you had actually a list of what the county does, what the town does, you're gonna probably have 4 times as much what the county does, if not 5 times as much
Well,
as what.
today, Joe and I both presented to leadership class. Maybe at some point could do a joint meeting where in the first 45 minutes, I talk about what the county does. And I've already got the presentation put together, and then Joe would talk about the
A little
town.
small retreat.
And you hear both sides, that maybe you have a lunch or dinner in the middle of it.
But not in December at
Not
4
necessarily,
a.m.
yeah. No.
And I understand that there's a lot
But
of
that would, I
time.
think that might be helpful.
I
just to-
understand there's a lot of
February.
time constraints. Again, going back 20 years ago, they had the town manager gave, I think it was like a day and a half retreat. And we actually went from, we could take the water out in the river and we traced slowly where it went to the wastewater treatment and then where it went, the outflow, the electric department, the whole things too. I mean, there again, we get on here and sometimes we don't know all the intricacies. Sometimes we don't need to know it, but at least it gives us a good overview of everything.
Well, when you're
that
making
everybody does.
decisions, you need to know what your left foot's doing before your right foot steps out. So, and there's a lot of things that we do that the county has no clue, and there's a lot of things the county does that a lot of members, and even myself, that I try to stay abreast of what I can, but
There's so much there.
it's just a lot there to do.
And I try to-
And I'm not trying to work myself into a board of supervisor seat, but I'm.
There's one coming up in 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yep.
But no, I mean, and I try to make a decision without checking with you first. So anyway, that takes care of things.
Sure.
Okay.
But no, I think we've got a good rapport here lately. I mean, we've had our ups and downs in the past, but I think, the main thing is communication. And that's what we try to do, and I think this is a
Well, that's
good
the
thing
magic
for
word
that.
is pass.
Hmm?
That is the magic word, pass.
But what goes around comes around sometimes.
So both bodies are keeping the community moving forward.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, but these two bodies, and I just was talking to Joe about it, we are talking, the board members are talking with the council members because we know everybody. And everybody kind of like is talking. Before it was, no, you don't want to talk to them because all they want to do is get us. And it was always a lot of perception, which was bad perception, but, every time I see Linda, I talk to her, and Gary's talking to Tony, and Tony's talking to somebody, and everybody's talking, so. And,
The staff certainly, maybe staff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
that's-
absolutely, yeah, hopefully.
The best thing too, we want to see the town thrive, because if the town thrives, we thrive. And I mean, all the stuff's down on Main Street, it's taken a while to percolate and get going. And it's
It's
great
really
things,
great.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of good things happening in town, a lot of good things happening in the county, and.
Well, the thing about the town and the county is we're preventing people from going to the outer Winchester areas and furnishing them tax money for their schools.
Mhm.
We're starting to capture a huge amount of money that used to go to Winchester, so.
So I wasn't trying to prolong this meeting, because we don't get paid by the minute.
We don't-
But I was just throwing that out there for consideration if we wanted to kind of retool this body and try to strengthen the communication process.
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense.
just a thought.
Anybody else?
There again, you won't have to listen to me for another, 4 or 5 meetings, so that'll be good.
Next fall.
Okay, I have to listen to you next Tuesday.
Okay.
But that's okay.
One thing I did want to mention real quick, today, crews were out there, as a sub of a branch, where they were putting sod along some of the properties, the Latrobe Parkway project along
Yes, they were.
55. The property owners, hey, I'm going to have established grass when this is done, and it wasn't up to par. And both town, county, EDA, Jennifer, Joe, and I had agreed that, in fairness to the property owners, that it needed to be done right, so they've gone out there and put sod down. And I think
So-
Tony's going to keep an eye on, make sure it's watered here for a few
So
weeks, but
you
I
guys
think it
will
looks a
do-
lot better, but we owed it to those property owners to clean that stuff up. And I know they've overseeded the parkway, I don't know what's coming in yet, but, we're trying
Seems to be
to,
some little greenish.
yeah, so trying to get that part, that's the last part, and to get the final DEQ approval. But the project looks great, it's just trying to get these last few pieces. And a lot of people are like, why didn't the town cut the grass? Well, because the town doesn't want to accept that until they get it to a point that everything's done and we can release the contractor. So it's been a little bit of a fight here the last few months, but at least I think, Branch has come out and making some effort and certainly get these property owners satisfied, but we owed it to them to get that done.
Well, using a little Tony humor, maybe we could all have a picnic in July, and all the members bring a little lawnmower and weed eater, and we'll just go have a weed eating and lawnmower.
You wait for me.
Yeah.
Since you brought that up about that, and I brought that up before they did the final there, and I don't know, since I come from London every day,
Yes.
right when you get to the end of the
That's supposed
project,
to be
there's that
addressed.
little dip.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to Jennifer, and I just didn't know if that was going to be addressed or not.
There is, they've addressed, the engineers addressed with the contractor, they need to add a little buildup of
Right.
asphalt there to fix that dip. The transition down to that street isn't what it should be, so I don't know, I think it's probably more, Joe, about temps and being able to do it when the weather's right than anything else, but.
That's fine, like I said, with all the projects we have going on, there's always punch lists, there's always things.
Well, we could take a sign, put a sign that says, move over to your left before you get to the end. That's when you do notice that the farther over you are, the bigger the dip, so.
We can bring the chips to the dip.
Yeah.
And I moved the town pay for that sign, so. I'm done.
All right. Anything else, anybody? Well, thank you.
Madam Chair,
We are done.
we are adjourned.
We are
Have a good
done.
holiday.
Thank you.
See you in January over the town